Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with the midweek update in the world of cannabis. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so, if we find out there's some sort of catalyst upon us. And with that, we start off with this news. Pretty quick to get this response, but thank you Cannasource.io for sharing this first, as the New Jersey CRC emergency meeting for Curaleaf license approval did end up taking place right after we got the news of Curaleaf not being able to renew their adult use license. Turns out motion passes to approve license renewal with a conditional approval. So I wonder if Bojo has a connection, got them to pick up the phone and was like, hey, you guys can't try and pull this shit after they made such a large investment to literally give birth to this industry. Anyways, Commissioner Nash makes a statement on how New Jersey needs to prioritize people over profits, says this was the second chance for Curaleaf to correct the way it handles business in the state of New Jersey, and this meeting was a wake-up call for cannabis operators in the state. And so what do you think? Do you agree with the New Jersey CRC? Do you agree with Curaleaf? Obviously, it's easy for them to talk back and forth and say the other person is to blame, but just wanted to provide a bit more information. Seems like the video is down here if you wanted to tune in, and this was like the link to what had happened for a bit of a summary. And it turns out votes on the motion for Curaleaf's license renewal, 4 out of 5 said yes, with 1 nay vote coming from Barker. And so at least 4 out of 5 did have the decency to see through the situation and be like, okay, let's give them another chance. But go figure that the 1 nay vote came from Charles Barker, who previously served as a constituent advocate and project specialist to none other than Corny Booker for 4 years, managing in many different areas. And so go figure, still trying to lay himself down using people that used to work for him to go against the industry. What a sad, turn of events this has come to be, as we see Booker is simply just a pawn for the pharmaceutical industry. But with that, just the same story out of Marijuana Moment. So just wanted to share this. Links will be in the description for everything that I've already just featured, especially the video if you wanted to tune in, but I doubt it's going to be one of the most boring things ever recorded. But with that, on to more news. As Cannabis Moment shares, new congressional bill would provide federal tax relief for cannabis businesses by amending IRS's 280E code. So not the first time we've seen this, but nice to see this reintroduced finally by Rep. Earl Blumenauer, founder of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, refiled the Small Business Tax Equity Act on Monday. The measure has been introduced several times over recent sessions, but has never advanced to a hearing or vote. And so hopefully this time will be different. You can pause to read to learn more about what the bill hopes to address. Otherwise, you can grab the full link in the description if you're curious, but wanted to bring you down to this part. As Senate Banking Committee Chairman Sherrod Brown said recently that lawmakers need to act on cannabis banking this year. Sounds promising, as it looks like it would be the end of 2023. And his Republican counterpart on the panel agree that the issue will come to a conclusion likely in this Congress. Now, can you let me know, though, is a session in Congress 1 year or 2 years? Because obviously we'd want to see this done by end of 2023, not kicked the can all the way down until the end of 2024. So do let me know in the comments. But both Brown and the committee's ranking member, Tim Scott, spoke at the ABA's Washington Summit one day after the lead GOP sponsor of the Safe Banking Act urged the financial sector to put pressure on Congress to get the job done. We're seeing more pressure being put on. Obviously, it's up to Congress to act, and sadly, they can't do anything, unfortunately. But importantly, Brown said that he's under the impression that the White House is supportive of the legislation. This legislation or the Safe Banking Act? Obviously, we'd like to think both, but sounds promising again. As Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said last month that he's still committed to moving the legislation with safe banking sponsor Steve Daines, even with a divided Congress where Republicans control the House. Yeah, schmuck, we know that doesn't fucking matter. It's been you the whole time that's been delaying it. But with the House now controlled by Republicans, the general expectation is that comprehensive legalization will be set aside as lawmakers work to find areas of bipartisan compromise that will be the incremental step in the near term that might help the industry. So the Small Business Tax Equity Act seems to be an example of that legislation. So you like to hear it. More example of the bill down here if you wanted to read, of course, grab the link. With that, Marijuana Moment also shares as GOP congressman and AOC refile bill to incentivize state-led cannabis expungement. So interesting to see all this happening at once, but could that bill that's going to remove 280E and this be applied to a safe banking? Could they all be ingredients? We'd like that to be the case. But just to share that these two have reintroduced a bipartisan bill to encourage state and local governments to expunge cannabis records in their jurisdiction. It proposes to appropriate $2 million in funding to support the program for each fiscal year starting in 2024 and ending in 2033. And so pause to read. Otherwise, grab more information on this, and obviously I will update as any of these bills actually progress through, but do like to see these being reintroduced. So with that, some MSO news is TerrAscend is going to release their Q1 2023 earnings call on Thursday, May 11th, after market closes at 5 p.m. And so already ready to go next month. We'll be seeing that out of TerrAscend. While Air Wellness to hold their first quarter 2023 conference call on May 16th at 8:30 a.m. before the market opens. So also Air Wellness ready to release those. And so it's nice to see MSOs already getting ready to release their Q1 earnings. So we won't have to wait that long to see if numbers are heading back up in the direction that we like to see, as new markets launching hopefully will help drive some sales. And we are just waiting on Curaleaf, who has until the end of April to release their Q4 earnings. And so with that, Columbia Care continues momentum in Virginia with opening of 9th dispensary ahead of 420 holiday. Cannabis Norfolk is the company's 35th cannabis location and 85th active dispensary nationwide, serving the medical base in Virginia as of now. And so they are committed to opening all 12 of their retail doors in Virginia to accommodate the expanding medical patient base, which stands at more than 55,000 and counting. So still small, but obviously growing, and better to get in there and establish so that you can recruit and retain customers early on so that they'll stick with you. So it doesn't seem like there's too much more included, so you can pause to read about what Columbia Care has going on in Virginia in terms of medical. But with that, apparently Cannabis Teamsters plan to strike 3 dispensaries on the eve of 420. Oh, drama. Now, I don't know what Cannabis Teamsters is, but obviously they want to be targeting a certain dispensary, most likely to try and get their point across and get whatever they are protesting for. Workers demand better wages and retirement security. And so who are they targeting? Dum-dum-dum. Workers at 3 Rise Dispensaries, a subsidiary of Green Thumb Industries in the Chicagoland area, are engaging in an open-ended unfair labor practice strike tomorrow, April 19th at 420. Now, is this justified? I have no idea. I'm not going to comment on it saying this is good or bad. This is what is happening apparently. Set for later today, it is the first time in the history of Illinois and one of the first time in American history that 3 cannabis dispensaries, well, obviously it's only recent that we've had dispensaries, but under the same company umbrella have gone on strike at the same time. The workers are demanding the company bargain in good faith and present them with a contract that includes better wages and retirement contributions. So this should get interesting. Good luck, Green Thumb, Ben Kovler, and your team. Hopefully this doesn't cause too much of a havoc for you guys, and you can continue to supply the demand for recreational cannabis on 420. But with that, on to some state news. Marijuana Moment shares Minnesota cannabis legalization bill finally heads to House floor after clearing 15 committees. Thank goodness. Now, can you just pass this? And it's so funny because it seems like every time we get a headline of them passing a new committee, we also get a quote on them saying, how the current status quo is just unsustainable. So now what do they deliver us with? Oh, the policy that we currently have with regard to cannabis is not achieving any of its aims and comes at great cost to our society. Yeah, we know. That's why you're doing all this. So pass the damn bill already. Well, we got this one from MJ Biz Daily as Missouri cannabis companies face product shortages and price hikes after adult use launch. And no doubt, Missouri's been one of the hottest markets as the demand for legal supply is very, very high. And I see only 2 solutions to this: allow for more cultivation to meet that demand, or deschedule and allow for interstate commerce. And I'm not exactly sure that there's a plan to deschedule and allow interstate commerce anytime soon, although we're seeing some foreshadowing. But just to highlight, the Midwestern market, which launched direct sales on February 3rd, is off to a sizzling start and on pace to break 1 billion sales in its first full year. With strong demand for medical cannabis patients as well as local and out-of-state consumers, has far exceeded operators' expectations and resulted in the kind of product shortages and higher wholesale prices experienced in other newly launched rec markets. At least it's better than having not enough dispensaries and, killing the markets like we're seeing on the East Coast social equity driven approaches. But just to highlight, there just isn't enough bulk flower for the sort of demand that's come to the market, says Ben Bernstein, strategy analyst at New York-based wholesale technology platform LeafLink. And it's not like this is something we can't solve. Again, more cultivation or deschedule. The problem, the solution is right under our noses. It's one of the only markets in the country that you can actually say that the demand is exceeding supply. It's a stark contrast from other markets such as Massachusetts, Michigan, and Oregon, where falling prices and a supply gut are challenging business viability. But these all different markets in different ways. Massachusetts focusing on social equity. Oregon's like 7 or 8 years into their market, very mature. Nonetheless, don't want to spend too much time going through this. I just invite you to grab the link below if you wanted to pause to read, but just highlighting that while some markets don't open enough dispensaries and they see very small sales, some open a lot, they see the demand, and people want to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars if given the opportunity. Just got to increase the cultivation. Or deschedule and allow interstate commerce to commence, but you know that the government doesn't want to give up that control. So there's a bit more, though. I'll scroll down. You can pause to read. Cultivation production less than half capacity. Manufacturing woes. You can pause to read. Border buyers, obviously driving up the demand and then turning the corner. So yeah, more cultivation or deschedule. That is the solution. And so with that, thank you, Brad Racino, for sharing these dismal numbers. But numbers for New York State cannabis retail tax collection are out for March. Legal sales generated $1.18 million in adult use taxes. You cannot make this shit up, and that's what you get when you open 4 legal dispensaries and allow 1,700 rampant illegal ones to operate without consequence because New York's no longer tough on crime. Thank you, Jeff Schultz, for this comment. Reminder that 40% of all cannabis tax revenue goes to the New York State Community Reinvestment Grant Fund. It's a shame so few stores are open and tax collections are so incredibly low, while the untaxed, unregulated illicit market is thriving and growing by the day. So why not go after those illicit shops, close them all down, use the police forces that are freed up from now no longer arresting for cannabis to go after them. As opposed to doing that, though, what does New York do? Thank you, Canna World. As New York governor launches cannabis campaign urging people to buy legal at the 4 legal shops at state's few licensed retailers ahead of 420, although it's going to cost them an arm and a leg, $45 for 3.5 grams through one of the legal shops versus they might get, a quarter for $20 through one of the illicit spots. And no doubt, if you're going to get much better bang for your buck, you're likely going to go to the illicit spot. And so just wanted to share this for the joke of what New York thinks is a solution to their current problems. Link below if you wanted to read through it. But with that, Marijuana Moment, thanks for sharing this one. Is Colorado House approves bill to allow online cannabis sales to reduce cash at dispensaries. This could be huge, especially if something were to, we were to get some miracle, cannabis would be descheduled and interstate commerce and online sales could sort of commence. But the goal here is to prevent a barrier for transactions to help businesses. And so e-com is a good model. Obviously, we have it in Canada. We'd love to see it introduced in Colorado, and so I will update you as this bill moves through. More on the link if you wanted to read through the whole thing, though. While Todd Harrison shares this one, Connecticut's House Majority Leader is pushing to include state-level 280E tax relief for cannabis businesses in the budget. And so while I did not have access behind this paywall, I'll put the link in the description if you wanted to try and check it out. But good to see Connecticut, much like other states, piggybacking onto this idea of helping the legal cannabis companies within their state by reducing 280E taxes so that they can keep more profits. Obviously, it's nice to see that effort in Congress, but if that falls through like it has many times in the past, again, good to see another state like Connecticut trying to pick up that ball and help the industry within. And so with that Marijuana Moment, this is an op-ed from, I believe, the Exec Wine and Spirits Wholesaler of America CEO or executive, but figured I would just share it if you wanted to read through it or grab the link in the description. As alcohol industry exec calls on Congress to federally legalize cannabis. Now, I don't need to explain to you why we ought to federally legalize cannabis and why it ought to be descheduled. But this is from Francis Creighton giving his own take. Public health and public safety demand that the federal government regulate the cannabis market. Yeah, well, it would actually demand that they deschedule the plant first and foremost and give it back to us and no longer have the predatory control that they do. And then, of course, commence and how they would best regulate it. And so just sharing you some snippets here if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, of course, the full link will be below to pull from. And with that, another one from Marijuana Moment. Congressional committee launches investigation into FDA's decision not to regulate CBD. Surprising after all this time. Nice to see some sort of effort into looking into their lack of action. But the lack of regulation of non-intoxicating CBD products have allowed for potentially dangerous products to enter the market, which I believe is in reference to the Delta 8 THC products that are going around the black market right now that is made from CBD and hemp. Not exactly sure how they do that, but all to say is that anyone with the head on their shoulders is really pissed, frustrated, and has had enough with the fact that the DEA just completely disregards CBD and the many, many medical benefits that scientific studies have discovered. So obviously, sooner than later, they would take it seriously. They'd make America a lot safer and give people more access to a non-addictive medicinal alternative. But with that, from Green Market Report, wholesale cannabis market continues to see price declines in 2022. Now, hopefully that has been the bottom and we see prices head back up, highlighting only the edible category saw price increases. And so just going to leave this here if you wanted to pause to read. And then edibles stay strong. Apparently, they are at least increasing. Obviously, if you can get edibles with higher concentration and less price, people are going to flock to that. And then the average state prices per pound of cannabis flower as of 2022, or at least you can say the end of 2022, each state down here. And so with that, thank you, Sammy J, for sharing this one. The Vangst Jobs Report 2023, 2% decrease in full-time jobs to 417,493, which I believe is down from the 419,000 jobs at the beginning of 2022. But obviously, if New Jersey or New York had thought to open at least 100 dispensaries or a couple of hundreds to legally supply the millions of people that might want to find a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative and try it out recreationally, this could be way more. And so while many markets have failed to capitalize on that opportunity, only a 2% decrease considering, everything that the cannabis industry has to deal with both hands tied behind their backs. I'd say that's quite impressive when you consider the layoffs that we've seen in big tech and other industries. While a 3% increase in legal sales to $26.1 billion in 2022, again, despite literally New York and New Jersey taking their sweet ass time and waiting so long to launch that they screw it up almost unfixably, and that's where we end up getting to where we are at, needing new markets like Missouri and all the other ones to come online until New Jersey and New York get their act together. But early 2023 finds legal cannabis at an inflection point. Go investment in business expansion with a goal of capturing market share has given way to a focus on bottom line sustainability. And so the 2023 jobs report, you got to put your email in to access it, but link will be below if you wanted to do that and check it out. While we got this one from EY, or at least from Newswire, but a report from Ernst & Young, as 58% of cannabis companies didn't meet board expectations in 2022, finds EY survey. And I'd love to know which exact ones didn't make it so that we could avoid investing in them going forward. But 76% of cannabis executives claim to have a well-defined business strategy this year. A few other highlights: over half of companies in the cannabis industry will require funding in the next 6 to 12 months. More than 50% of global execs plan to maintain or reduce overall capital investment, while excessive competition, ongoing pricing pressure, and scarcity of capital are top risks to growth. I would say the biggest risks to growth are the politicians we have in power, unfortunately. But just figured I would share this if you're interested. Taking the bad with the good, tightening business strategies amid increased competition. And I pause to read. Changing perspectives on mergers and acquisitions. And you can pause to read here if interested. Otherwise, some more studies before we head out. Clinical outcome data of chronic pain patients treated with cannabis-based oils and dried flower from the UK Medical Cannabis Registry. And so the following study evaluated the clinical outcomes of patients enrolled in the UK Medical Cannabis Registry who were treated with inhaled dried flower from Curaleaf, ironically enough, and sublingual oral medium chain triglyceride-based oils, again, for Advent from Curaleaf International for chronic pain. And so the results: 348 patients were treated with oils, dried flowers, or both respectively. Patients treated with oils or combination therapy recorded improvements within health-related quality of life, pain, and sleep-specific problems, while patients treated with combination therapy recorded improvements in anxiety-specific problems. Adverse events were recorded with previous cannabis-naive users, ex-cannabis users, and female more likely to experience adverse events. But essentially, the study observed an association between initiation of cannabis-based medicinal products, treatment, and improved outcomes for chronic pain patients. So fair enough. It seems like using cannabis-based medicinal products did help improve outcomes for a majority of chronic pain patients. Obviously, more research is encouraged, hence why we ought to deschedule, but just happy to relay that. Well, we've got this one from Sage Journals out of the UK, I think again, out of Australia, medicinal cannabis for Australian patients for chronic refractory pain, including arthritis. And so the objectives to examine the tolerability and effectiveness of medicinal cannabis prescribed to patients for chronic refractory pain with a subset analysis on arthritis. And so the overall chronic pain cohort, specifically the balanced CBD THC products, were associated with significantly reduced pain intensity scores, with 22% of patients reporting a clinically meaningful reduction in pain intensity. So far, so good. Patients in the arthritis subset reported significantly reduced pain intensity scores overall, and specifically for those taking CBD only and balanced products. Products that contain a balanced ratio of CBD THC were associated with the improvement in the most number of PROM-IS 29 domains. Approximately half of the chronic pain cohort experienced at least one adverse effect, the most common being dry mouth, which water is helpful for, somnolence, or fatigue. These findings were similar in the arthritis subset. And so obviously, interesting findings. Obviously, I would say worth descheduling for so we could look more into it and have bigger, wider sample-based studies. But nonetheless, just relaying you what they found. And lastly, we got this one from PubMed, a population-based case control study of cannabis use and head and neck squamous cell carcinoma. And so while this one really only has the abstract, it highlights that, however, the epidemiologic evidence addressing the relationship between cannabis use and the induction of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma, so I'm not exactly sure what that even is, but that's just what this is based on, is inconsistent and conflicting, meaning we need more research and more studying and more larger sample sizes to actually effectively look at this. But all this to say, our study suggests that moderate cannabis use is associated with reduced risk of HNSCC. So very interesting. Moderate cannabis use will help prevent you from getting head and neck squamous cell carcinoma. So obviously that's what I get out of this. If you get something different, do let me know in the comments. But again, just more reason to deschedule so we can look at cannabis, try to study the medical benefits, give the plant back to humans, especially those who need it as a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative. And I just wanted to share this because, where you least expect it, MSN.com, some of these random stories that pop up on your browser before you head to any website. Just wanted to share this because this has also been being shared on Twitter. Woman with functional neurological disorder ditches her wheelchair for roller skates. How convenient that they leave out of the title title, what helped her ditch the wheelchair for roller skates, as a woman with a rare disease says she was able to ditch her wheelchair for roller skates thanks to medicinal cannabis. Like, should that not be fucking in capital letters in that title saying why has this woman been able to ditch her wheelchair for roller skates? But Jane Hinchcliffe, God bless you for having faith in the plant and taking control of your life back, as at 44 she struggled with chronic pain from an early age, which led to a, what do you know, prescription of codeine at the age of 15. But look at her now. It's amazing.
This is great fun.
Yet cannabis is still stuck in the Schedule 1 classification, where it is deemed to have no medical value whatsoever and too addictive for doctors to prescribe, yet it's now legal for medicinal in 38 states. You cannot make this shit up, folks. We're getting closer than ever. Obviously, we want descheduling. Incremental reform is likely the next best step. But what do you think? Is it coming? That is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of today's stories? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.